Hey y'all, welcome to another What Else Is Going On, aka We Go Podcast YouTube video. I'm your girl, your host, Taria. What's up, y'all? Happy Monday evening. I just want to get into a couple of things with y'all. First off, I want to get into Kenya's video, Kenya's confessions. Again, I know that y'all have heard them and all the things, but I want us to discuss them together. Now, I just want to be clear on something because I think some people, and I'm not saying y'all, but there are some people that feel like when you say something about a housewife, you hate them. Even if it's not a housewife that's your favorite, you hate them. Number one, I don't hate anybody. Do I feel like I dislike, even though I don't even know these people, right? But some of the housewives, I feel like I dislike if we see their personality outside of the show, right? Or just watching, like to be honest, just watching the show, you're like, I don't like the character. I'll just put it like that of that person. That's human nature. We all have our faves, non-faves, people that are like blips in our radar, like, oh, I don't dislike, I mean, I like them, but if they weren't on the show, it wouldn't affect me either, right? We all have the, I mean, it's, come on. That's the fun of watching reality TV. Like, Dad, you really like this person? You really like this person? So I want to put out there anything I say is my opinion on what she's saying. Doesn't mean that I hate Kenya more. And I have told y'all this before. And this is not directly talking about Kenya, but I wouldn't want anybody to wish that I would lose my job, right? So I don't go into that thinking like I wish they would lose their job. Now there are housewives that I don't that I would if they didn't come back to their shows, I would be like, but I want them to have another stream of income in its place. If they don't, and it means them being on the show, then I'll fast forward their parts. Like I'm not gonna lie, I used to fast forward a lot of Ashley Darby's parts. Brrr, go right through. So I don't want anybody to be without income, but at the same time, there are housewives that I don't want to see on the show. But with Kenya in particular, she has a daughter, and she's like a lot of us with hopes and dreams that she wants to fulfill. And even though there were many years that I didn't care for her on the show, I would still want her to be able to fulfill her hopes and dreams. You know what I mean? And then actually, I was actually looking forward to seeing her on the show this season. Like I can honestly say this is the first season that I was looking forward to Kenya being on the show because I wanted to see her and Portia's dynamic, hoping that changed, just to see her just her being a part of the show. Like literally. Kenya, how could you do this to us? Question mark. And it's interesting because I do hear a lot of people say that there are people that weren't Team Twirl that still were like, we were waiting to see her on the show. Like, it's not cool what Britt did, all of that. So I say all that to say I'm gonna give y'all my opinion. And if you don't agree, that's cool. But please don't be like, oh, you want to see a black woman torn down. No. And you know what's interesting? I had somebody in one of my comments. I was on somebody else's podcast, the reality rundown, right? They posted a clip of us talking about Bose and Garcelle. And then I posted it on mine. Child, it's been 2 or 3 weeks, and every day I open up my Instagram, there's about 20 or 30 comments, right? Which great. I'm glad it posed this conversation. But one, people act like just because I had my thoughts about Bose that I disliked her. Never said that. As a matter of fact, I think she's got a show coming out with Jimmy Kimmel. Like legit congratulations to her. I can have my thoughts about something that I saw or something that I feel like I picked up on that you didn't. But then there was another person that commented on my stuff and was talking about me and the other wonderful co-hosts, Wellington and Chase. And I say not co-host. I was on Chase's. I mean, Wellington, runs the podcast, runs Reality Rundown. And me, him, and Chase were recording together. Shout out to Chaser TV. And somebody commented, y'all are talking about a reality show. Y'all are corny. You literally commenting is corny. I'll just say people get paid to talk about reality TV. And girl, go somewhere. Like you being here is corny. And then when you find out they follow you, I almost want to say that you're simple. Because if you find all this corny, why are you steady on my page? Steady. It's a waste of time and energy, I would think. So that's just like I get people all have their thoughts, and sometimes people take their thoughts to extremes and what have you, but people can literally provide commentary on your favorite housewife, and that does not mean they hate, they dislike, they think they're trash. None of that. Okay. All right, let's get into it. First up, Kenya looked absolutely gorgeous. Like the beat was beaten, all of that. She looked really, really good. I liked the setup, the salon, all of that stuff. The backdrop to Kenya was beautiful. You know what I mean? Kenya was the main thing, and then the backdrop surrounding her was beautiful. So it created such a beautiful picture. I was waiting Friday. Well, first it was supposed to be Tuesday, then Friday for it to drop. It didn't drop. Cool, whatever. And then all of a sudden, I see that it drops. But I was also subscribed to the wrong YouTube before Friday. And then I forget who I was listening to. They were like, this is the YouTube. And I was like, oh, dang, I was subscribed to the wrong one. But so by the time Friday came, I was subscribed to the right one, but didn't drop. But she dropped it. So let's get into some things. I will say the first up on her Instagram, the 911, the intro to the 911 call, I do wonder if that is real or if that's just a dramatization of how she felt in the moment. Did she actually call 911? I'm going to say this with Kenya. Kenya does have a way of saying something that will have people believing something didn't happen or something was true. Case in point, when all this came out last summer, Britt made the comment. Britt did her post and was like, being a victim of revenge P is not fun, blah, 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 blah. Kenya came out and said, I did not participate in revenge P. There were a lot of people that were like, see, y'all, see, she didn't do it. She didn't show those pictures. I mean, a lot of people, she didn't do it. She didn't do it. She didn't show those pictures because she said she didn't participate in Revenge P. And so I asked I said, she didn't, she said she didn't participate in Revenge P, which if, according to the Georgia law, she didn't, then she didn't. If she's going, if what the law is saying lines up with what Kenya is saying, then she didn't. However, what she didn't do was tell y'all she didn't post pictures of Brit giving fellatio. But there were people, she didn't do it. So that's what I mean. Like Kenya knows how to say something. I don't know if that's her intent or what, but I noticed that it happens a lot. She'll say that and people will jump on that. When she did that Instagram live, I'm going live. I'm going to tell you all the things. She said, I'm not going anywhere. Immediately, people said, see, she's not off the show. She said she's not going anywhere. And in my mind, I'm thinking, she didn't say, I'm not, I'm still going to be on the show. But people ran with it. Like, that's not what she said. She said, I'm not going anywhere. That could mean Insta, IG posts, YouTube, podcast. It could mean a whole lot of different things, right? But it doesn't mean she's going to be on the show. So like I said, she can say something and have people take it in a direction that's not what she said. Like I said, I don't know if it's purposeful or not, but it happens a lot. So one of the things she said was Porsha said she talked about Porsha saying someone gave her the nudes, right? And that was absolutely not true. I will say Portia's exact words were someone who is a current housewife gave her some information in regard to the nudes. So she didn't say, Portia technically didn't say a housewife gave Kenya the nudes. She said she gave her some information in regard to the nudes. So that could easily be somebody telling her the website to find it on. Because I know Kenya did say they were on a public website and they're Googleable. Come on, y'all. People done got people's almost blood types on these shows, the internet. And you mean to tell me the internet last summer when all this came out hasn't been able to find the videos that Kenya found. So it's not an easy search. Like she said, maybe how she said she cleaned the internet, but Britt left some in the corners. Maybe it's corners that people haven't thought to look, but it's not such a easily Googleable thing. Come on. Because people would have had them. Like we have like let's admit that. Um, she said that she regrets showing them at her beautiful salon opening. And I wonder, and she may have said it with Tamron Hall or later on in this video. I don't recall hearing it, but I wondered. Let me go back because I have said before. I wish Kenya didn't show them there. If she did it at a dinner or and then I thought about it and was like, I was putting myself in the shoes of Britt, and not necessarily thinking about Britt herself, but like how I would feel as a woman. I don't care if I did sex work. I don't care if it was already out there. If it was something that I tried to get scrubbed, even if I stood 10 toes down, like, yeah, I did do webcam or I did do X, Y, and Z, it doesn't mean I still wouldn't be embarrassed with them being plastered on a billboard at someone's grand opening of their salon, right? So I feel like there's some people almost chastising Brit because she doesn't stand it, because she feels a type of way. She's allowed to feel a type of way about it. What she did with the gun threats, because they were threats, she was absolutely out of pocket and wrong and definitely should have had consequences for her actions. She's also allowed to feel a certain way about this, right? Because I would. Um, Now I wouldn't be threatening anybody with pistols and whips, but again, she's allowed to feel a certain way, right? But I wondered. So I went back once me saying I wish she had to show them somewhere else. There's a part of me that was like, well, honestly, I wish she hadn't showed them at all. Like, I wish there was another way she could have. Kenya used the word herself. Everyone knows I retaliate, whether you agree or not. It's too far, whatever. I retaliate, but I wish there was something else. So I say that to say, at first I was saying I wish she had showed them somewhere else if she was going to show them. Now part of me is like, I just really wish she hadn't showed them at all. However, I wonder if Kenya regrets not just showing them at their salon, but does she regret showing them at all? In terms of, if this was me and I went far, if somebody threatened me, or if I threatened someone and they showed my nudes, like how would I feel? Like I wonder if she just regrets showing them at the salon or if she regrets showing, you know what I mean? Like at all. Like I said, I just wonder. Um, she said she doesn't hug people because she believes, that energy transfer. So that's why she didn't hug Bray at first. And I'm gonna say this: it was so much about that hug, but it's like because I've seen people say she didn't even bother to hug Britt. Maybe not the first time, but she didn't hug Kelly either. But she told them they looked beautiful and then called Britt Balmain Barbie and hugged her at Kelly's event. So I just don't know what more Britt wanted from her. Uh, she brought up Phaedra having her stun gun at the reunion. And I said, well, yes, Phaedra did have the stun gun at the reunion, but wasn't that because Kenya said, I will knock her teeth down her throat, pregnant and all? So maybe Phaedra felt threatened because this woman said she was going to knock her teeth down her throat, pregnant and all. I'm just saying, maybe that's why, Kenya, maybe that's why she had. um, she also said that she feels like Britt promised someone, basically, in other words, probably the producers, that she would come after her and that she was trying to deliver on that promise. But the reality of it is, the first 3 weeks of filming, Kenya said she was exceptionally boring. She said she was boring and her husband wasn't particularly interesting. Then she said, "Oh, not trying to throw shade at the husband. Sorry about that." So I thought that was interesting how she said she probably promised someone that she would go after Kenya, because I do believe production has an issue with Kenya for whatever reason. And I don't believe that they were going to bring her back this season. I wonder if Candy quitting left them scrambling. And then they got Porsha to come back and say, well, we need to keep another vet because they're not OGs, but they're vets. And that's why. I think I told y'all before that I talked to somebody who, let's just say, is on the inside there. And they said that they didn't want Kenya back at first. Things happened and she came back. And those things to me, I wonder again, I wonder if it was Candy leaving. And they were like, oh, okay, Portia's coming back. Let's just do this. So I found it interesting. I wonder if Kenya felt that because for her to say, I think she promised someone, meaning production, that she would come after me. I wonder if she felt like, oh, they're going to try to make me a target for some reason or because they don't like me. Like I would be interested to know if that's what she was feeling from them. Like they wanted to push her out. She said, when you come on reality TV, you know, and you've done something, well, you know, we've all done something and had a pass. But basically, don't think that you're going to come on and it not come out. Then she said to the Simons and the Chrisleys of the world, because you know the Chrisleys, me and my family used to watch those shows, was doing stuff and then got locked up. And then Simon, I thought that was interesting how she picked those two, the Simons and the Chrisleys of the world. I said, okay, Kenya calling them out. Then she said, why would you come on reality TV if you've done things or if you've done things in the past or are currently doing things that you didn't want to be found out? She said, why then give someone a reason to expose you? So I'm thinking there, she's saying, Britt, you gave me this reason to expose you. You know, you did stuff in your past you didn't want out. In my mind, I'm thinking Britt thought she probably scrubbed it. And I think in my mind, I don't know if I would think that someone, if no matter what I did to them, would then find news. That's why I'm like, where did Kenya get the idea from? I don't see Kenya just immediately going to, oh, I'm gonna show her news. Oh, but you know what? Then again, she did say she hired a PI and people. There was PI and people because she used them both. So maybe that's why. Um, she said people tell her that she didn't take accountability, but she did. And then she played her apology. And I see a lot of people saying that Kenya never apologized to Britt, and Britt herself said in an interview, Kenya never apologized. Maybe she means Kenya never apologized face to face, but Kenya did apologize because in the apology that Kenya played when she went on Tamron Hall, she said she apologized for like the cast, the crew, and then to Brittany as well. So she did apologize to Brittany in that way. Britt may have been looking for a face to face. Again, I wonder, do y'all know or have y'all seen anybody post the timeline from Kenya's event to the investigation to them not filming with Kenya? Was it 1 week, 2 weeks, days? Like how soon after Kenya's event did she find out they were no longer going to go forward with her? We know they were only 3 weeks into filming, but I wonder how long that time period was. So she said she did take accountability with Kim Fields. She apologized. They moved on. Kim Fields has actually invited her to things. She also took accountability with the things she did with Phaedra. She said Phaedra did some things. I did some things. Phaedra did things that crossed the line with Kenya. Kenya did things that crossed the line with Phaedra, but she took accountability for the part she played in it. I also no, I was going to say, I wonder if Bravo would have still managed to bring Phaedra in at the end if Kenya was there, but probably not, right? But maybe they would have brought her back the next season. Um, she said people ask her why didn't she go to the producers? She said she did. Her and Porsha stayed behind, that scene that night at the bank when everyone else was leaving. She said Britt was irate. She was yelling and screaming. And that's when she said, I keep a pistol for bees like you. She said that didn't make the edit. I believe that. With as irate as Britt was, I believe Kenya when she says that. And when you think about Britt saying the pistol comment once over there with Kelly, then she's saying in the same sentences, when she was walking out the door, I forget the exact phrase, but it was about Kenya. And then she was saying, I got pistols, I got whips and pistols. At first I was thinking, well, wait, Did Kenya hear her say that and hear her call Kenya a B and then just kind of put it together? But no, because Kenya was very specific about the three times that she said it. So I believe it. So I was like, that is wild. Like, for people saying she didn't threaten her, what? If I'm in an argument, and I know I keep saying this, but it's like if you are in an argument with someone and then they mention I got pistols and whips, to think that they're not talking about, like, I can't see anybody not thinking they're not talking about you. Like, I asked my girlfriend randomly, I said, if you were in an argument with somebody and as you're walking away, they calling you out your name, all types of beads, you gonna learn today, and then they say they have pistols and whips. What would you think they were talking about using them on you? And she said, absolutely. That like absolutely. And it would be a problem. So I, in that moment, even though, because I myself have said, Kenya, if you really felt threatened, then why would you then go to these depths and show pictures? I believe in that moment, Kenya was like nervous and kind of felt like, oh my gosh. I felt like I could feel that energy from her through the screen when she's like, oh, my car's not here. To me, it was something in her voice where you're trying to play it cool, but you are kind of rattled a bit. So I believe that Kenya was feeling that way in that moment. So then by the time that moment passed and she did go to production and all of that, and she felt like nothing was being done, I think that scared moment was out the window and it was retaliation, revenge. So she said she went to the production that night to explain what happened. Um, she said we weren't there, meaning us, the viewers, and it got really intense. So intense. I believe it. She said she's the only castmate that's ever been physically attacked, whether people think she deserves it or not. It's still a polarizing conversation back then and even now. Either way, she's still the only castmate that was attacked. She said, so when you have someone say they're going to unalive her and use a pistol on her, and then you hear her saying it two or three more times, saying they have whips and pistols, that wasn't about the neighborhood. Because I know for sure, I said on my channel that the first one, people may say, okay, she's talking about the neighborhood based on the conversation. So I know Kenya's heard that conversation clearly, which is why she made that reference, right? So she said, you try to change the narrative. So basically, she felt like the narrative was trying to be changed about why Britt said it. She said, you try to change the narrative to make it benefit you because of your action. That's rigging the game. Because, she used the Kendrick Lamar. So basically, she used the term rigging the game, but basically, girl, now you're trying to switch everything up and make people believe something else is going on that wasn't. She then said, let's see, okay. She said, you clearly rigged the game against me. She said, I'm gonna leave it right there. I said, oh, okay. Is there gonna be more to come from that? Then she said, let's see. She said, oh, she kept saying that she had proof that Britt had her pow pow. So I'm thinking, but did someone on production, is it gonna come out that they actually, the bank, the restaurant searched them on their way in and some have anything, right? She plays the clip that I had up on my Instagram and other people had up on their Instagram. There was a lot of us. And it originated from Twitter anyway. So an account on Twitter. And then a lot of us had it up where Brittany's saying she stays strapped. And I see where Kenya was trying to go with that, but that wasn't proof because you've already said Britt is a liar. And Britt, we already know that clearly she's lying about something with the gun because she said she never had it. So then it was like, why did you say it? She can't answer. If you didn't have it, then why would you say it? On Watch What Happens Live, she can't answer that, right? So to show that clip of her saying it, she could have been lying then. We don't know. So to me, for Kenya, that wasn't concrete evidence that she had it that night. You can say this speaks to her character. This is what she said, but yet she's saying she didn't say it. So like, as Cynthia said about Porsha, she got a little lying problem. But you can't say for sure, you know what I mean? She had it. So that I don't think that it could be used maybe as evidence. Let's just say if they were in court, but I don't think that's a concrete receipt. You know what I'm saying? But again, I get where she was trying to go with that. So shut up. So that's how I feel about that, y'all. Then she says, let me see, because I took my notes, but I didn't blow them up, y'all. So I'm like trying to see them. She says she complained to HR, and then you want to do an investigation 3 weeks later. Oh, did you have a pistol? Nope. Oh, okay. I get where she's going with that. I too would want to know how thorough of an investigation was it? Because it can only be based on you asking her or production and asking production, did they see anything? You think Britt is going to say yes? So I get Kenya in that aspect. If you're saying you did an investigation 3 weeks later, how? We can't prove she had it or she didn't have it 3 weeks later, right? So I see where what Kenya, was saying about that. She basically was like, if somebody threatened Kyle Richards or Teresa Giudice, would they still have a job? The answer is no. I'm just gonna say it. No, please. They would have been gone immediately. There were questions that were asked of her, and one of them was like, "Do you think that you let a newbie?" I'm paraphrasing, trick you out of your spot. She said, "No, there wasn't a spot up for grabs." But I get what the newbie is saying. All of them had a spot. Kenya, yes, you had a spot. Newbie came in, pushed buttons, and then threatened you. I won't even say push buttons because Kenya was paying her dust. Threatened you, and so you retaliated. So, in a sense, I see what they're saying. A newbie tricked, out your spot, knocked you off your square. So I kind of disagree with her there. Like, yeah, she kind of did do that. The network allowed her, the production team allowed her to get away with doing it, though. That's the thing. She says she felt like what she did was appropriate in a way because where she's from. And then she was like, you can cut this out if it's not appropriate. And they cut it out. They had music playing. I would like to know what she said. Does anybody have a program out there where we could take the music? Yeah, there gotta be like a descrambler. Remember back in the day, if you had a satellite or like if you got channels that were scrambled because you didn't pay for them, you could get a descrambler. I'm telling my age. Okay. Anyway, then it was also what else? Because there's only a few more things. Oh, they asked her, "How do you feel? Do you feel like Cynthia threw you under the bus and is now Team Brit?" She said, "I'm not talking about Cynthia." I said, "Okay." Then she said, they asked her how much she got paid. She said, "Of course, she thinks it's tacky to talk about money, but more than the housewives that are there." I said, "Ooh." They asked about her being at the reunion. She said, "I won't be at the reunion. I wasn't invited to the reunion." Then she said, "As a matter of fact, I was disinvited a few months ago." She said the disrespect is insane, because she's someone who has always loved the Real Housewives of Atlanta and always wanted to see them win. And now she's being shut out, not given an opportunity to apologize the same way they gave grace to Britt to allow her to apologize to Kenya. So they allowed these things that Britt said to go unchecked. And I personally feel like they called her and was like, you need to apologize and do X, Y, and Z, which is why Britt came in with that energy the next day. Supposedly, it was the next day. Like, I'm so sorry. That's what I think. I get where Kenya's coming from in that sense, too. It's just a really messed up situation on both ends because Britt should have definitely had something done to her. If they didn't fire her, she should have at least been suspended. Because even if she said, I didn't have a pistol on me, you said it and it's still a threat, period. So if they didn't feel like that was a fireable offense because she didn't, they deemed through the investigation she didn't have it on her, at least suspend her for the threat. That's how I feel. So it's just messed up on both ends. We do know now. I do wonder. Say Britt had got suspended, but not fired. Would Kenya have then investigated her and gone to those lanes if she felt like was Kenya basically in her mind? I'm gonna tell them about her in this threat with this pistol, and I want her gone. And if it was anything other than her being gone, would Kenya still have done this? I wonder. I don't know. It's just really a messed up situation. She said, yeah, she was disinvited to the reunion. She said she thinks it's really odd to be erased from the history of the show and the credits and to not have a confessional. And she said when Kim Zolciak left the show, she got a whole new show when she had confessionals. Now, that I don't think that's a comparison that you can make with that, but it is very interesting that she used Kim Zolciak because Nene used Kim Zolciak as an example in her lawsuit against Bravo. And at the time, the women laughed at her, Kenya included. So I do think it's interesting that she uses Kim. That was about it, basically. I don't feel like any receipts were shown. I think the word receipt gets thrown around, right? I feel like if I was a housewife and I'm just giving out a receipt and me and somebody got into an argument and I slapped her, but it was edited out. And so now all y'all hear is, let's just say somebody slapped me and then I reacted by slamming her head into a table. It gets out, this is during filming, it gets out that Taria Faison of the Real Housewives of Outer Space slammed her castmate's head into the table. And I'm saying, but she slapped me. And the castmate is saying, no, I didn't. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Because maybe they kind of know it's going to be cut out or been given a heads up. A receipt would be, then let's just say I had my phone on record and they didn't know it. My phone was sitting on the table. I had hit the record button and they didn't know it. And then I provide the video showing the slap. That is a receipt. Like, I feel like people use the word receipt lightly. Not just Kenya, but like across the board. A receipt isn't like, just because I think it's so that's a receipt. It's like seeing proof of what you're saying happened. So I feel like, again, that clip of Britt saying she keeps her pistol on her isn't necessarily a receipt, but it can speak to her character. Meaning, so then you lied because you said you didn't have it that night through the investigation, but on here you're saying you always have it, right? Um, do y'all think this, after watching this, do y'all think Kenya didn't do herself any favors with the network and this might push them to not bring her back? Or do you feel like you don't think it was anything that would make them, like she didn't say anything against the network or anything that would make them not want to fool with her, but she also didn't say anything that you hadn't heard already on social media? How did y'all feel about it? I want to know y'all's thoughts. Again, I know y'all heard it, but I don't know what y'all's thoughts were. So what were y'all's thoughts on it? And are you ready for her to release her next one? I want to know, is she going to do it weekly? I wish she had have done this from the beginning. I said from the beginning, I wish she did confessionals like after every episode or something like that. Because I would also like to hear what she had to say about the episode itself. But I can understand that would also be hard to watch when you're not on it and give a confessional when you know you want to be there, you know? So we've heard a lot of people say, and I felt like this too, like for some reason Andy didn't like Kenya. And I think that, but then the other side of my brain remembers again Kenya on Tamron Hall saying she was in a lot of communication with Andy and he was helping her through the process. And Andy himself saying he was so happy that she went on Tamron Hall, took accountability, and was in communication with her. So that doesn't sound like a person who doesn't like a person, right? And when Kenya went in on his co-host, she didn't go in on Andy. She went in on the co-host, but then she said this is the podcast where it's legal. Again, talking about his co-host. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. Do y'all think again that this was enough for Bravo to be like, we're done? Or do you think, like I said, it wasn't anything like that, but also it didn't give you any new information? Y'all let me know what y'all think. Real quick, I do want to touch on Porsha's YouTube that she posted today, I believe. I heard the cries. I heard y'all, the respectful ones at least. Y'all were like, cousin, we love you. Family, we love you. But why we got to listen to Porsha? So I told y'all, okay, I got it. See, I heeded what y'all said. And I'm just going to read some things that she said. I'm listening. I'm not going to play it, okay? Because I love y'all. But I just want to get into a few things she said. The video was actually cute. It was her and Pilar tasting different cakes from different sweets from different places. And then Lauren took Pilar away and she got into the episode a little bit. So she talked about how she loved that Cynthia was dating a younger man. She thinks that's the new thing. Men have been doing it. She said, we're cougars. And she was like, I don't even think they're calling us cougars anymore. I'm smiling because what I'm about to say next. And I like Porsha, but again, I recognize her ways about her. And I recognize with the whole Simon Fallon and her thing. And look, when it first happened, I was one of the ones that were saying Fallon was also cheating on Simon. But someone said that was still her husband to cheat on, not Porsha to become friends with the girl and then do it. You know, they were going out together. They had hung out outside of that one picture they posted. And people were like, Fallon wasn't cheating on Simon. But I used to listen to, when B. Scott had their podcast, who what was B. Scott's co-host name? It began with a D. Oh my God. I want to say Dustin, but I don't think that's it. My apologies. I can't think of the name. But he would be on there. And then they had a track star. Her name is Dominique Blake. She was a co-host too. I had posted it on my Instagram when this happened, Simon and Portia years ago. Not so many years, but years ago. And Dominique happened to be in Mexico, I believe. This is during the time that Fallon and Simon were married. Not going through the divorce, they were together on the show. They had been on the show. And Dominique was in a club. She said she looked over and she saw, and like I said, it's still on my Instagram. You just have to go back some. She looked over and recognized this girl, and the girl was Fallon. She didn't realize it until they kind of looking at each other. And I forget who approached who, but she was like, "Oh, I'm Fallon. I live in Atlanta," and mentioned the Real Housewives of Atlanta. Then it clicked, like, oh, and she was there with another guy. I believe it was Jalen. Actually, I'm not sure if it was Jalen now or not, but they had taken Simon's jet, and the crew that was with Fallon, that she like invited. Basically, they were kind of like all hanging together that night. She was like, I can't even reveal everything that was said, but I'll tell you this: she was with this guy, like coupled up with this guy, and her crew was like, they're engaged and she's married. This is messy. And this was before the divorce stuff. Now, maybe behind the scenes, they were already going through it. I don't know, and had already decided. Because remember, they filed and he took it back and then filed again. But yeah, B. Scott's co-host, one of the co-hosts at the time, saw Fallon with this other guy in the club. So I used to be like, well, she was cheating on him. But again, I had to think back. But Portia still, even though she was saying we're not friends, it was my coworker. Y'all did build some type of relationship. Y'all was hanging out for a little bit. So yeah. But anyway, so that's why I was smiling when I'm about to say what Portia said on her show. She said it's really hard for her to trust women because she's had women that she trusted and it didn't go well, meaning they basically pretty much betrayed her. She didn't use the word betray, but it didn't go well for her. So they clearly did something. She said, and especially within the group. She said she's the type that she immediately wants to trust women, but she's learning to wait. She would be like, oh, let me trust you. And then I'll wait until you give me a reason, show me a reason not to trust you, versus her going in like, let me not trust you. And then see that, oh, I can trust you. I have a friend like that. She says she goes in and the people are at ground zero. Versus me, when I go into a friendship, I'm not naive, but there's a difference between being naive. I'm not naive. I'm just not looking for you to betray me. But I'm not naive about what could happen also. You know what I mean? So she said it's hard in a group. So now when she goes into a group, she trusts the women a 3 out of 10 and they have to build themselves up. But yeah, she has a hard time trusting women. She said there's a lot of talk about Charles not coming from her. She said it's not a room. It's there's a rumor about him having a baby on Angela. It's not old. The rumor's been around. She said Angela is coming in with very strong energy with certain people. And sometimes when you come in with strong energy, this is funny, it comes right back to you. She says sometimes it could take time. So you come in with strong energy, and after a while, it could take time, but that energy is going to come back to you. She said, but with Angela, I feel like it's going to whip that bitch quick. Sorry, I just had to say it. And they had the whip sound. She also talks about Angela's worst kept secret. She said the nose job. She was like, I'm not against plastic surgery. I've never had a nose job. Now we know she never had a surgical nose job. She had the non-surgical, non-invasive nose job. She has it on her page. So she did have that. But she said, definitely when she puts that makeup on, she looks pretty. I said, my God, today. Okay. Then she brings up Drew's conversation with Angela. In the podcast episode that'll be released tomorrow, I mentioned to my guest, y'all remember in the trailer when Angela was sitting down with Drew? Drew says, I'm working to get a Rolls Royce too. So she doesn't want hers, and I'm paraphrasing, but she doesn't want hers to be repossessed or taken. They didn't show that in the scene on Sunday. So I literally said to my co-host, this is before I watched Portia's video. I said, do you think Portia's going to address it? And then I said, probably not, because maybe she's not like watching the trailer. She'll probably only address what's in scene. Y'all, I get done recording with him. I go out and do some more work, and I'm listening to Portia's YouTube, and she says, she brings up the conversation with Drew and Angela, and she said, there was a part they didn't show, something about Drew saying about my car and my Rolls Royce. She said, and I just want to let her know I'm still in my Rolls. I want to let the people know I'm still in my Rolls Royce. I said, okay, so she did watch the trailer and she is commenting on it. And again, she said she didn't get a nose job. She said she liked Britt and Drew's conversation. Now she said, who appointed Drew as the accountability person when she needs to take accountability herself? But she said Drew was asking all the right questions. She said, now I liked Britt and Drew's conversation. And I was looking at them like, oh, I love this fresh, raw energy. Then she said, don't y'all like this fresh, new energy like better? Like, don't you like this? She said, I didn't expect it from Drew and Britt, but I like it. I said, okay. She said Drew did ask all the right questions. She said, and Britt answered them. Then she said, what else could Britt say? She said, who doesn't have a past? We don't have the same past, but Britt owns who she is in her past and who she is now. She is a beautiful person. I really can't wait to see if they show what Britt said. Supposedly, not supposedly, but we know Shemi has come out and said Britt spoke on her child. We've had the discussion. Did Britt speak on her parenting or did Britt speak on her child? We don't know. But Portia's saying she's a beautiful person. So I'm really interested in knowing what Britt said because, okay. She said Britt is honest and stands in her truth. And that is, what does she call it? She said existential when it comes to housewives because those are the ones that make it past season one. Me looking at Britt now, I feel like the only reason that she's being talked about on the show is because of what happened with her and Kenya Moore. The Kenya Moore. Like her or not, she is the Kenya Summer Moore. And she has had an impact on this show. Now, whether you want to say it was positive or negative, she has had impact on the show and she has moved story, right? I feel like I do agree with Kenya when she says Britt isn't entertaining. I don't find her like Kelly and Angela, chef's kiss as far as new additions. Not saying we may end up not seeing it for them, but we can't deny that they brought something to the show. I feel like, well, I'll say I won't deny, right? So, Portia saying Britt stands in her truth. Britt's honest and standing in her truth, and those are the ones that make it past season one. I honestly wouldn't see Britt coming back. The only way I could see it, honestly, Again, she's interesting because of Kenya Moore, and she's not even interesting. It's just the thing that happened between them. I can see Bravo bringing her back based on this thing happened to her. She was really embarrassed. We need to give her another shot. Now, we don't know what's going to happen the rest of the season. I'll say that. So, based upon what happens the rest of the season, for the whole cast pretty much to fall out with Britt, except for Porsha, we don't know if Phaedra does or not. Um, I guess we'll see. But I couldn't see them bringing them back. The only reason I could see them bringing them back is them trying to redeem, make it about, let's make it up to her and bring her back. I don't know. What do y'all think? Um, she also said this was a difficult episode for her to film because before Simon, birthdays weren't a big deal. She didn't make them a big deal. But her and Simon are both, they said both had birthdays in June. They made a big deal about their birthdays together. They would either be in one country for their birthdays or split the time. Either way, the birthdays were spent together. So it was really hard. She wasn't even going to do anything, but her team, including Lauren, put this all together. I'm not going to lie. I was like, Portia act like she didn't spend 10 birthdays with this man. Realistically, they released them dating on Mother's Day. So we don't know how many months they were dating before that. We do know that in February is when the divorce with Fallon and Simon was announced, right? That May, the pictures come out with Portia, Simon, and Dennis for Mother's Day. June was their birthday, so that was their first birthday together. What was that, 2021 or 2020? Was it 2021? Let's just say it was. 4 birthdays together. Portia's what, 46, 45, 46? And let's take it to adult years. Out of 20 years of you being an adult, let's take it from her 20s. I know you don't celebrate those 4 years. You know what? Heck, if she say it's difficult, it don't matter if it was 1 year, I guess. But my first thought was, well, one of my thoughts, girl, you didn't spend 10 birthdays with him. But moving on. She also said that it wasn't a big deal for Angela to invite Drew, but Angela actually kept talking about Drew and making a big deal and saying, yeah, Drew's coming. Portia, I know you feel a type of way about it, don't you? You can be honest, and kept dragging it. And that's why Portia was getting agitated. But it really wasn't a big deal. At the end of the episode, Portia but I just feel like her friend saying that Drew was sucking penis. Like, is this the theme of this season? Sweet sucking 16. Like, I don't. And to say that, I thought was like, I feel like Portia kind of knew one of them might say that. I'm sorry, I do. She can't control them, no, but girl, we're on camera. I don't know. Anyway, so that's what Portia had to say about the episode. I want to know y'all thoughts on Kenya's video, what you got from it, what you didn't get from it. Do you think she should have done it? Do you think she shouldn't have done it? And some of the things that Portia had to say about the episode. I love y'all. Don't forget, I'm dropping my podcast episode about Atlanta tomorrow with a guest, and I will talk to y'all later. See ya.